Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we'll be playing another quick draft of March in the Machine. Again, we're in that period of time where I'm coming off the high of the Arena Open, that super competitive Magic, and I really just want to chill out for the next recording session, so we're getting a couple nice low stakes quick drafts in there. The cheapest way to draft on Arena, just 5,000 gold or 750 gems, and we've got all the time in the world to sit here and talk about our picks and talk about our feelings. So without further ado, let's get into our pack 1, pick 1 for this March in the Machine quick draft. We've got a Bloodfeather Phoenix as the rare, which is a solid card for aggressive red stuff, but I have found myself having a pretty bad time every time I try to do any aggressive red things. I think the color just doesn't work out too well for me personally, and I think it is one of the weakest colors in the format, so I'm a little bit off the Phoenix here. We've got some other really powerful cards competing, mainly Norn's Inquisitor. 2 mana for a 1/1 that incubates 2, and when you flip that incubator, it's going to get an additional +1/+1 counter on it, so it's going to flip into a 3/3 instead of a 2/2. So 4 power and toughness of stats off of this one card. It costs you a total of 4 mana to get it all going. If you have more incubators, you get even more +1/+1 counters off the Inquisitor, and it can do some really nasty stuff. So I'm going to go with Norn's Inquisitor here, but I think the best cards are probably the Bloodfeather Phoenix, the Norn's Inquisitor. Not really sure about the third best. Freewheeler and Lancer are both fine uncommons in the right deck, but not massive reasons to hop into those archetypes like Inquisitor is. Maybe like a Halo Charge Scab, Nezumi Informant or something. Some of these commons are pretty good. And my pet card is Timoret. I love Timoret, but even I can admit you probably do not pick one pack one Timoret. So we'll take Norn's Inquisitor, see where things go from there. Pack 1, pick 2 has a very simple follow-up to our Norn's Inquisitor. We can just scoop up the solid white removal spell. It is sorcery speed and double white, so a little hard to cast, and a little less flexible than some removal in the format, but it's still perfectly playable and sticks to our first pack, which is nice and easy. I don't think any of these uncommons are massive reasons to hop into their particular archetypes. They're both a little too narrow, and Finn doesn't really have a mountain of support in this format because a lot of the green aggressive decks want to be attacking battles, which Finn is not that good at doing. So Invasion, you just need a really wide board state, then you can do this. So it's a pretty narrow card that's only good in specific positions, and then Hoplite is similar. You need to have a ton of backup abilities for it to not just be a 2 mana 2/2. We'll just take a Seal from Existence, be pretty happy with that. Some really high card quality out of pick number 3. We've got an Elvish Vatkeeper in green-black being one of the best cards here. It is only for a green-black deck though, and we're already 2 cards deep towards white, whereas Preening Champion is pretty close to as good as Vatkeeper, where it just gives you all of the stats up front, get a 2/2 flyer and a 1/1, get 2 creatures off the one card, which is really good in a format with Convoke and like battles to protect and stuff like that. Just cluttering up the board is sweet, so I like the Preening Champion here. Angelic Intervention is pretty good as well, very solid combat trick for a white deck, but I think that Preening Champion and Vatkeeper are certainly strong enough to take an off-color card out of this pack. However, if I can afford to, I'll take the mono-colored off-color card instead of the dual-colored. So we'll go Preening Champion here, potentially pushing towards blue-white, but really just open to seeing where the draft goes from here. These are definitely the top 3 strongest cards, these 3 I would say. Very sweet stuff out of this pack. Pack 1, pick 4's got some pretty nasty stuff. We have Fearless Scald in red, which can end a game out of nowhere with a huge double strike swing, so that's a pretty powerful late game card for an aggro deck. Bola Slinger is a very powerful late game card for an aggro deck that sticks to white, as it's going to get a counter on one of our creatures and help that creature get in by tapping something every time it attacks. And then the Bola Slinger itself can also tap something every time it attacks. This is really good at 4 mana. And then there's what we should probably take, which is Phyrexian Censor, great in any aggressive deck, because most of your opponent's creatures are now going to enter the battlefield tapped, and they can't cast 2 spells in 1 turn. However, this card is really annoying, and the way that it interacts with battles is just not a great design for this format, in my opinion, so I've kind of got this thing where I'm trying to object from playing Phyrexian Censor as much as possible, because of just how annoying and how much I dislike the design of that card. But I think this is another position where it's probably the pick, because there's a lot of Phyrexians in white to go with Elesh Norn and Norn's Inquisitor type stuff. So we should probably take Phyrexian Censor here, but I'm going to pretend the card doesn't exist and scoop up a Bola Slinger instead as the next best white card. Pack 1, pick 5 is a little bit interesting here. If I want to stick to blue-white, we have Wrath, which is really nice for a blue-white deck that has a bunch of creatures and a bunch of instants and sorceries. We can certainly draft around this card. I've tried to draft around it before, and it never quite made it because we ended up swapping colors, so maybe we go for it here. This could be a good draft to do it, and that seems pretty fun. Haven't gotten to play with all the Multiverse Legends yet, and Wrath is certainly a cool one. However, this might be the opportunity to hop onto red because we're seeing another Fearless Scald here, as well as a ton of red cards in this pack. That being said, seeing a late Scrappy Bruiser, Javelineer, Scrounger, not the biggest sign that red's open. And Shatter the Source, it's a fine removal spell, but I think it is a bit overdrafted, so I wouldn't take that as a super huge reason that red's open either. But Fearless Scalds are pretty strong, so just the sheer quantity of red cards could be a good sign that we could just hop into red-white backup, but I think I'd rather stick to our preening champion in the blue, see if we can get a nice blue-white tokens deck with Wrath. Could be quite sweet. Not a very big fan of any of these cards in blue or white here. Shapecraft can be an okay combat trick. Scab is really good for the blue-black deck, but doesn't do too much in the other blue decks. And Billy Rider really needs some synergy with a bunch of +1/+1 counters and stuff like that. I guess we have the Bola Slinger to back up onto it, but not a super exciting, super high pick for me. I think I'd rather just take a Tranquil Cove, get our mana base all in order with double white cards like Seal from Existence, and it'll help us if we end up playing a third color at all, for any powerful rares we might open up in the future. So I like Tranquil Cove here. I think the best 3 cards in a vacuum are probably like Tranquil Cove, Ichor Drinker, and Halo Charge Scab. So the main competition is the Cove or the Scab for us. I'm going to take the Cove. Important Tracker's pretty good too, though. It's probably in the top 4. Maybe Important Tracker's stronger than Cove in a vacuum, but we're obviously not on green at all right now. For pick 7, again, we're deeper into white than any other colors, so I think I would like to have some filler white creatures for if we do take that path. And there are some solid cards in other colors, like Completed Huntmaster or these Land Cyclers, but I don't think those are powerful enough to really buck the trend and get me to hop into those colors. They're just cards that I would say are like good filler when we're in the color, instead of bad filler like Billy Rider. But I'm not going to take off-color good filler. If I'm going to take an off-color card, it's going to be something that might incentivize me to switch colors. See a bunch of fine red filler in this pack. I'm actually a pretty big hater of Harriet Artisan now after playing it in an Arena Open draft in an aggressive red deck. I don't think I had enough experience drafting aggressive red decks to know how to do it super well there, so I ended up with a super mediocre deck, and Harriet Artisan, we had 2 copies of that, and just always felt way too small for the mana cost on both halves, the front and the back. Played pretty poorly, so I'm really low on this card now, and I just don't even like looking at some of the red aggro cards from previous bad experiences, so maybe I am supposed to be open to just taking some decent red stuff now and pushing to that red-white deck, but I'd rather just get more potential mana fixing here for whatever we might open up in the future. Thornwood Falls is completely off color. Well, I guess it's blue-green if we're in blue. But we have Golden Scale Aeronaut now, which is actually a nice, like, 5 mana top-end backup card. I think I'll go for that one here. Again, I don't think I'm really going for Halo Charge Scabs unless I push to blue-black. So we'll take the Golden Scale Aeronaut for the top of the curve. Alright, now because Infected Defector is pretty filler and Inspired Charge pretty much always gets the cut, I will start taking some of these red cards. If we keep getting more red cards back to us in these next packs, maybe I will potentially push into that direction because I only have 2 blue cards right now, and if I do load up on almost every creature in my deck having a backup ability, this could get pretty big. So we'll take the Mirror Shield Hoplite, see if all of those red cards keep coming back this late in the draft. Alright, well, some of them came back, but these don't really work with the Mirror Shield Hoplite kind of backup deck. These are both incredibly filler, like bad filler cards that every time I've played them, they've just been not very good. So I'll just take Angelic Intervention as a great combat trick. Alright, Marauding Dreadship is a red card I like quite a bit. I think I like it enough to take it over the fine little Seraph of New Capenna flyer. one of Red's best commons because it's kind of 2 creatures off of 1 card. Similar but very different to like Chimney Rabble back in Phyrexia All will be 1. It's going to give us a 2/2 and a 4/1. However, one of those cards is a vehicle, one's an incubator token, so kind of weird. You got to put in your work to get it going, but you can often trade the 2/2 and the 4/1 into 2 different creatures of your opponents, which ends up playing really well. And even just aggressively playing a Mirror Shield Hoplite on turn 2 into a Dreadship turn 3 can get that 4 damage haste attack in off the crew, so I like the Dreadship. Alright, well, we are getting like all of the red cards back. We have Hanger Scrounger to synergize with the Hoplite, Javelineer for a filler 5-drop, or Shatter the Source for filler removal. Probably take the removal. But yeah, Scrounger's good with Hoplite. I guess this is actually kind of awkward with Hoplite, right? Because Hoplite can double up the backup ability, but it's got Vigilance. So if I go turn 2 Hoplite into turn 3 Scrounger, I get 2 counters onto the Hoplite, but I don't get to discard or draw any cards, which is kind of funny. I think I'm just taking the Shadow Source for fine filler removal. Ren's Resolve can be an okay late game draw spell for these red-white decks, but I think I'd rather take Bane Splitter because the Multiverse Legends in red and whites all have to do with equipment. So having some random filler equipment, if we get one of those Multiverse Legends, could end up being really good because those cards really, really make any equipment, even if it gave like no bonuses, worth it. There's some that like draws a card whenever you play an equipment. There are some that give equipped creature double strike all the time, stuff like that. So I'll take the Bane Splitter. Definitely not running it right now, but it gives us a tool to go along with the Multiverse Legends if we see them getting passed around. Alright, pack 2, pick 1. We get Yuta Takahashi, World Champion of Magic the Gathering. 2 mana for a 2/1 flyer with Flash, so we can play him at instant speed. And whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, we can draw a card. So if they play any card drawn naturally, we'll start drawing cards. And even if they don't, we can use the 4 mana ability to have each player draw a card, which ends up being 4 mana to have your opponent draw 1 and you draw 2. So Fairy Mastermind is just a really excellent card. And that's going to probably convince us pretty heavily to stay in blue if we can get more blue cards, because that is not really a bomb in that it completely explodes the game in your favor, but the amount of value you're getting for the mana cost is pretty bomb worthy. So Fairy Mastermind is just excellent. Incredibly high quality card to take there. Pack 2, pick 2, we see a few very good options for a blue-white Knights deck. We have Zalfiran Lancer, 3 mana 3/3 that gets better every time you play a Knight. Really, really good if you can consistently attack with this as a 4/4 Vigilance. That's just busted. Temporal Cleansing is solid interaction for any blue deck, and then Aerial Boost is a solid combat trick for any white deck, because this will often get your opponent out of nowhere, because you can be completely tapped out, just have a couple random dorks on board, and all of a sudden you're casting a combat trick still that your opponent just didn't know you could even have access to. So Aerial Boost is really good. Cleansing and Lancer are solid. I think Aerial Boost should wheel a lot more often because it's a common, it's just a combat trick. Kind of want to take Lancer, but also the only players that should be taking Lancer should be Blue-White Knights players, which hopefully we'd be the only one in the draft pod if we go in that direction. It's a hard choice between these 3. If I'm in Blue-White, how much interaction do I have right now? I have Seal from Existence and that's all. Maybe I take the Cleansing. Although, there's a lot of good interaction in the format and some mediocre interaction. Maybe I want to make sure I have a good creature count before anything else here. Currently I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I think I'm going to take the Knight. It's really close between all 3 of these. I think they're all excellent. And now I'm pretty happy to have made that pick, because we've gotten another good Knight for the deck, and now we can just scoop up the really efficient piece of interaction. This is Blue's, well, not Blue's best common. Blue's best common's Preening Champion, but Blue's best interaction in the format. For only 1 mana, you can bounce an attacking creature and Surveil 2 to set up your next draw. And even at 3 mana, bouncing any creature of your choice and Surveiling 2 is not a bad deal at instant speed. So Afara's Dispersal is just a really nice card. It performs well above its mana cost, well above its pay grade. We'll take the Dispersal here, hoping to wheel the Sigil Sentinel or the Aerial Boost. has some great pickups too. Well, here's one of those Multiverse Legends I was talking about that do make auras, equipments, and vehicles much more valuable. However, it's competing with a rare that is super powerful all by its lonesome, so I don't think we're going to take it here. It's competing with Progenitor Exarch. 1 white and double X. When it enters the battlefield, incubate 3x times, and then you can tap it to transform an incubator. So for 3 mana, you get a 1/2 that incubates 3. For 5 mana, you get a 1/2 that incubates 3 twice, and so on and so forth. It's pretty great value at whatever mana cost you're paying. So it's just an excellent card, and I will scoop it up here. Speaking of excellent cards, we're just getting some sweet stuff in this draft. We now have Anafenza Kintree Spirit, or Anafenza Kintree Spirit. 2 mana for a 2/2 legendary spirit soldier. Whenever another non-token enters the battlefield under your control, you get to bolster 1. Super, super sweet card from the Multiverse Legends. Basically, every time we play a creature for the rest of the game, we're also getting a +1/+1 counter onto our smallest creature. So it can add a bunch of extra power and toughness to our board over time. Super good for any deck that's heavy into white to hit that double white mana cost. So definitely take the Anafenza there. Super fierce competition here yet again for Pack 2, Pick 6. Artistic Refusal is competing with Phyrexian Awakening. Phyrexian Awakening is going to be 3 mana to incubate 4, give all of our Phyrexians Vigilance. So basically 5 mana, 4/4 Vigilance at worst. And then Artistic Refusal is just a huge, huge, huge counterspell late in the game that we could even convoke out pretty easily with some creature tokens, some cards. It's like the 4 mana 2/2 Knight that makes another one, the Preening Champion, a 3 mana 2/2 that makes a 1/1. I think I'm going to go for the Artistic Refusal. I'm going to have some really solid instants and sorceries to go with our Wrath still. And it's just such an incredible late game play. But both of these are very strong cards that would be super valuable to this deck. But we'll go for that Artistic Refusal. Moving on to Pack 2, Pick 7, I've went ahead and sorted the deck out by mana curve and cut all of the red cards and the off-color duels now. So we can take a peek at our curve of creatures as well as our non-creature spells and see what we need more between Bolaslinger and Angelic Intervention. Both similarly solid cards for the deck, just filling very different roles. The combat trick versus the 4-drop creature. So we're sitting at 10 creatures, 4 non-creatures. Ideally, we're going to want like 17 creatures and 6 non-creatures at the end of this. We'd want most of our non-creatures to be instants and sorceries. So we're looking to find 7 more creatures and like 2 or 3 more non-creature spells. So I think I'm going to take the creatures a little more highly. Plus, we saw earlier in this pack there were some of the Convoke combat trick that we might be able to wheel to fill out the combat trick slots here. And Bolaslinger fits really nicely into the curve where we're kind of empty at 4 mana. So I'll grab another Bolaslinger and see if we can wheel some of the other combat tricks instead. Pack 2, Pick 8 now, whole lot of nothing. Don't think I'll be playing a second Aeronaut or a first Scab or a Scroll Shift, but I guess I'll take the second Aeronaut here. For Pack 2, Pick 9, we have Surge of Salvation for a little Hexproof trick. Really good when we're playing against black or red, otherwise it's just going to counter 1 removal spell for 1 mana, which is fine. Phyrexian Censor, which is really good in aggressive decks like this, because now every creature is going to start entering the battlefield tapped. Super annoying card though, don't love the design, probably not going to take it for that reason, as I've said in the past. And then there's Daxos, which is, I mean, probably worse than these, but it's pretty funny to me, especially because I'm already playing 2 different double white cards, so I think I'm going to go for Daxos, just because it's the most fun. Daxos plus Anafenza together is a 4 toughness Daxos already, and the heavier I am on white, the better Daxos is, and we're pretty heavy on white here, with blue as just a secondary, almost like a splash here, so I'll take Daxos. And here is part of the reason we took Bolaslinger over the other combat trick. We might be able to wheel some of these aerial boosts, which are pretty much just as good, and it looks like we will wheel an aerial boost. Happy to scoop that up here, and we wheeled another one. Could take the Oracle of Tragedy over that, but this is much more for a defensive deck. This definitely looks like an aggressive strategy that we're playing today. I don't think we're ever going to be doing the clear the mind style graveyard loops you can do with this by shuffling stuff back into your deck over and over. I don't think we're going to be doing that. So it's just an early game defender, which isn't really what we want. I'll take another aerial boost. I don't really think we need triple Bola Slingers, so I'm going to rare draft SRAM for the collection. And I guess worst case scenario, it is a 2-mana 2/2. If we do get some really good equipment or vehicles, then maybe we get to start drawing some cards. I'm going to take the SRAM here. Just fun to get the really cool Multiverse Legend rare, even if it is just to add it to the collection. Take some filler stuff in the end, and that's a 23 card deck. This means that the final pack can be 100% focused on making this deck as good as possible, and it already looks pretty great, so very excited to see what we open up for pack 3, pick 1. Well, that's unfortunate. This is basically a complete miss. Not a single one of these cards is a card I'd be interested in playing in a blue-white aggro deck. Corruption of Tawashi gets the closest as a solid value card for any blue deck with a lot of incubation, but we don't really have a lot of incubation. We've got a tiny bit, and this is a pretty slow card, which isn't really what you want in aggro. Honestly, if you really wanted a Yargle and Multani in your collection and you were drafting this deck right now in a quick draft, I would say just take a Yargle and Multani. I think it's a very low chance we play any of these blue or white cards. So, kind of sad to completely miss here, but we'll see what we get past. This is a set with a lot of premium cards. Battles, Multiverse Legends, several uncommons, and a rare, so hopefully we get past something cool. Even if I didn't open anything cool for our deck here. Alright, not in love with our pack 3 pick 2. We did get past something really cool, but it's not something we can play, this Yarok here. We've got an Invasion of Belanon, which is a card that looks like it's supposed to fit into the Blue-White Knights deck really well, but the problem is that's a really aggressive strategy where most of the time you're basically spending 3 mana to get a 2/2 Vigilance, and you don't really want to spend 5 or 6 points of damage towards trying to flip this thing instead of beating your opponent down. And so a 3 mana 2/2 Vigilance is just really overcosted. And even if you do manage to flip this thing, you've spent so much time not beating your opponent's face down. So I found this battle to play really poorly, and I'd rather just have Swordsworn Cavalier. 2 mana for a 3/1 first strike is really, really good. And that's what it is any turn you can play a Knight. Even when you're not playing Knights, a 2 mana 3/1 isn't horrible for a really aggressive deck. And we have some good synergies with it with like Anafenza. Since it's going to be our lowest toughness creature on board almost every time, we can always bolster onto it and make it a 4/2 and then a 5/3 and keep going from there. So I like Cavalier here. There are good pieces of blue interaction like Temporal Cleansing and Assimilate Essence, but I don't think Essence is going to be great for this deck. We want to almost completely tap out every turn, and Cleansing is a little expensive for me right now. I'll just take another good creature. Grab a Swordsworn Cavalier, and I'll just do that again, grab another Swordsworn Cavalier and make sure we've got the really aggro 2-drops. Could take a Tranquil Cove or Temporal Cleansing here. I'll take another Cavalier. Maybe we can even get to a point where we're completely mono-white, which would be hilarious. But I don't think so. Alright, really nice pickup now. Marshal of Zhalfir can buff all of our Knights and can start tapping down creatures later in the game. Marshal of Zhalfir is phenomenal. Quende's really good with Swordsworn Cavaliers because your Cavalier is going to get first strike when you play them, and then they're going to give the Cavalier double strike because it has first strike, so that's a pretty fun combo with the Cavaliers, but I'd rather just have Marshal of Zhalfir, just a consistently powerful Knight's Lord. This pick's kind of interesting. I don't think I'm going to end up playing any of these cards because I already have a ton of 2-mana creatures, so I don't need this. I already have a good amount of combat tricks, so I don't need this. I don't need a 6-drop in the deck. Maybe Wicked Slumber is the most likely to get played, or Astral Wingspan, being able to give my 2-mana 3/1 +2/+2 flying. All of a sudden it's a 5/3 flyer later. This could be pretty good with 2-mana 3/1s. Maybe I'll go Wingspan. It's Wingspan or Slumber, I think. These are the most interesting cards that aren't filling a role that I already have tons of cards doing in the deck. I think I'll go for the Wingspan. I'm not certain how likely it is to make the cut. Alright, I don't think I'm playing anything out of pack 3, pick 6. I'll just take the battle to the sideboard. Actually, even though I have a ton of 2-mana stuff to do, I still think the 2-mana 2/2 lifelinker is more likely to get played than that. but I'm going to start it in the sideboard regardless. I'm not going to play a Halo Charge Scab, so I'll rare draft some uncommons here. I'll grab actually, Lithomantic Barrage seems like a good sideboard card for Standard. Ooh, pack 3, pick 8, get our first Knight of the New Coalition. This is a pretty good card for the Blue-White Knights deck. And we've got 0 copies so far, so really happy to get at least 1 copy. The card is super good with Zhalfirin Lancer, giving it +2/+2. It's super good with Marshal of Zhalfir, because both of the knights that it makes are going to get +1/+1. And it's quite nice with late-game convoke spells like Artistic Refusal, because it gives us 2 creatures with Vigilance, so they can attack in and then still convoke something during our opponent's turn. So Knight of the New Coalition's a premium card. Sad to have only seen 1 copy this draft, but it's pretty perfect for this archetype, and we're definitely going to play it. Alright, here's the pack that we opened up that was already sad for us, but now I'll just rare draft, I guess. Whatever we don't own. I don't have to rare draft here, I can take a Temporal Cleansing we might play. Okay, not going to play any of this. We'll rare draft Invasion of Kylum. If you're ever interested in rare drafting yourself and you want to see how much of everything you own in your collection during a draft, just hold down the Alt key on PC, or the Options key or whatever it is on Mac, whatever the equivalent of the Alt key is. You can do that in any kind of draft, a Premier draft, traditional draft, quick draft, anything like that. I might play another Angelic Intervention. I should probably scoop that up just in case. Over rare drafting there, although I guess I'm going to get 1,000,000 copies of it. I don't think I'll play a full playset. I guess I have 3, but I don't think I'll be playing 3 interventions and 2 aerial boosts, so we'll have to figure out what we're doing there between those 2. Either way, this looks like a pretty sweet Blue-White Knights deck here. Not an archetype I have a ton of experience or a ton of success with, so happy to be doing something different this draft. That should be pretty cool, and we get to play around with Wrath. Maybe have all of our non-creature spells just be instants and sorceries like our combat tricks. So we have tons of ways to trigger the Wrath. That could be pretty fun. Obviously late game at 5 mana, Wrath can just get that huge Vigilance attack in, which is nice. Super good with convoke spells. Oh my god, give our whole board Vigilance so that we can attack in with everybody and then still hold up our Artistic Refusal at instant speed. Yeah, Wrath is nuts. If we get to 6 creatures on board to give them all Vigilance so that I can still hold up Artistic Refusal, that's really sweet. But yeah, this deck is looking good. Looking like a very nice pile of cards. Alright, so first and foremost, we're going to cut our most mediocre cards like the 2 Enduring Bond Warden. The Saram that doesn't have anything to trigger. I guess we have 1 aura in the deck, but I think I'm cutting that. So we can just keep the instant sorcery count high. So we cut the big aura and the big enchantment here. Now we need to cut 4 more cards. I feel like 5 combat tricks is just a whole ton. I think I'm going to cut 2 of these combat tricks. And I'd rather keep the convoke ones in since they're easier to hold up. So I'll keep 1 intervention and 2 aerial boost. They're all pretty solid combat tricks, it's just that I don't want to run 5. So then we get 2 more cards to cut. I'll probably cut 1 creature and 1 land, because our curve is kind of just a mountain at 2 mana. Maybe cut 1 of the 5 mana cards, 1 of the aeronauts. Call it a deck there, maybe? Yeah, I think I can cut 1 of these Golden Scale aeronauts. They're pretty slow. And when I am using them at the top end to get a big flying swing in, I can also just use like aerial boosts or interventions to get flying or potentially unblockable from a color, trying to close out late game damage. We also have double Bola Slingers doing similar things for 1 less mana. I think I can cut 1 aeronaut here and then cut a land. Could also just cut Daxos because again, it's cute, but I'm not like fully mono white, so I should probably restrict my double white cards to being ones that are really impactful on the game, like Anafenza that keeps giving more and more +1/+1 counters, rather than just a little bit of life gain. If I cut Daxos, is there anything I want to put in over a 17th land? Maybe another combat trick? Combat trick be better than land 17 in this deck? Maybe, maybe not. I think the curve is low enough. It probably would be. I think that would be the best addition to the deck. Yeah, I'll put in a combat trick to run 16 lands. We'll go double Aerial Boost, double Angelic Intervention, and cut a land. We are at 19 white cards, 7 blue, so cut a blue source. And call it a deck there. Alright, here's a look at our completed deck list for today. It's going to be a blue-white Knights aggro deck. We have a mountain of aggressive 2-mana creatures with a ton of combat tricks, bounce spells, a bunch of good tempo plays to keep that board clear and keep slamming in with them. Double Aerial Boost, double Angelic Intervention for combat tricks to win the fight and clear the board, Seal from Existence for flat-out removal, and then Dispersal and Cleansing for bounce spells. So just getting on the ground early and aggressively, trying to beat our opponent down before they play anything too aggressive, and once they play decent defensive cards, just tap them down with Bolas Slingers or bounce them back to their hand, close out the game real quick before our opponent can stabilize and play their big late game bombs. This is a super aggro, super tempo oriented deck, something quite different from all these blue-black defensive controlling decks we've been playing recently, so nice to try to go for the opposite end of the spectrum here and get something really aggressive going. So very excited to see how this deck does. Without further ado, let's just head into the gameplay and see how it does. Here we are on the play for game 1. Turn 2 Marshal of Zhalfir. No Knights to go with it. I could just run out the Sanctifier first. We have big enough late game with Progenitor Exarch. I think this is a definite keep, even if it doesn't have the most aggressive start that we've ever seen. Ooh, a Norn's Inquisitor coming up. Drop Norn's Inquisitor. I could be attacking with a 3/3 next turn. I'll go for Inquisitor. Just start things off. It's also a Knight, technically, so if I play Marshal of Zhalfir, I'll give the Norn's Inquisitor +1/+1. We've got the 3 mana up here. 2 mana to flip this and attack for 3, and I still have Afara's Dispersal if they choose to attack with Timuret. That'll set up our draws and put the Timuret back in their hand, force them to recast him. They're on black-red. They are going to play Scornblade Berserker, put a counter on Timuret. Swamp Cycle a Gloomfang Mauler. Well, now I can just remove the counter from Timuret if they attack. They choose not to, though. Could still bounce Timuret now. Looking for land 4, I think that's fine. There's land 4 and a removal spell afterwards. Once I hit land 4, I can play Sanctifier and Marshal in the same turn. I can also play a Bolas Slinger later. I think I need land 5 badly enough to mill the removal spell. We'll keep that. Seems fine. Get to attack in with the squad now since we bounced Timuret. They'll play a Karsus Depth Guard, a 4/3 defender, to try to lock us out of attacking. I'll send the 3/3 in still. Then we'll play Sanctifier and Marshal, I think. Alternatively, could play Bolas Slinger, putting a counter on Inquisitor, but I'd like to get a wide board state here. Get a multitude of creatures out. Alright. Fearless Scald. Make the Depth Guard a 5-power double striker this turn. They send it in. They're at 13 by Bolas Slinger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not quite dead. But because of the life gain, it's going to be worth it, I think. They crack back for lethal if they have removal. I'll gain 3 because I can put the counter on the Sanctifier. I'll be at 14 with a 2/2 chump blocker. They hit for 6+5, which is 11. So not lethal unless they can kill Bullet Slinger and do 3 extra damage. I feel like the safest play is Seal from Existence here, though. And then I can still try to find the Bullet Slinger kill next turn. I feel like that's probably for the best. They're not going to have a way to blow up an enchantment in black-red, so I don't have to worry about them getting another double strike backup trigger, unless they have another Fearless Scald in the hand. With Bola Slinger and Golden Scale Aeronaut both having pretty much guaranteed lethal backup abilities, I think I play it tremendously safe and just play Progenitor Exarch as a 1-mana 1/2 here. So I have the chump block even if they have another Fearless Scald or something. Invasion of Olgrotha, I don't think that saves them. Yeah, it definitely doesn't. Alright, so Bola Slinger. And there we go. That'll be a victory in game 1, heading into round number 2 now. Here we are on the play for game 2. You can play Cavalier into Inquisitor to have a 3/1 first strike attacking on turn 3. Marshal of Zhalfir coming up to buff both of these cards. Seems good to me. Mizumi Informant is the first play. Probably get rid of the 5-drop when we're stuck on 2 mana. Do hit the 3rd mana, which is nice. I think I play the Inquisitor first here. Send in for 3. Alabaster Host Sanctifier is their next play. Pass the turn, Preening Champion. It's another knight hitting the board. And then Marshal's even better next turn. It's also the most mana efficient play. So if I hit a land next turn, I can play a Marshal and flip a creature, or a ton of different powerful options. Collective Nightmare. Alright, that's cool with me. The 3-mana removal spell on the 2-drop. I guess they convoked it, so it only cost them 1 mana, really. Now they've got Invasion of New Capenna to kill the Preening Champion as well. This thing's at 4 counters. They combat trick, they immediately flip it, or kill both our creatures without losing Sanctifier. Either of those is pretty annoying. If they flip this, though, they get a counter on their board every time they attack. If their creatures are all Phyrexians, they get a counter on the entire board every time they attack. Let them hit it here. Okay, no combat trick. No 4th mana. I mean, a single 3/3 is big enough to block Sanctifier if they don't have a trick. Send an Inquisitor, but I'll hold up the 1/1 in case they have instant speed removal for the 3/3, so I could still chump and stop the battle from flipping. Okay, so they probably still have a combat trick, but it's probably Angelic Intervention then, and not the +2/+2 trick, because if it was the +2/+2 trick, they would have used it last turn. Or it's like another Collective Nightmare to kill this. Maybe it's Elspeth's Smite? Or it could be nothing. Yeah, maybe they just didn't see how Norn's Inquisitor worked there. Or they were bluffing. One of the two. Okay, now I can Marshal of Zhalfir and hold up Angelic Intervention, which feels wonderful. Okay, don't need to intervention that. That is fine if that dies. Cut short my 3/3. I'd rather save that than play a Cavalier. Cut short is a white spell, so protection from white. Pass the turn. We've got a good board state. They have just cards in hand here. Sculpted Perfection, that's going to be 1 blocker for them. They can't even flip it immediately. Could just temporal cleansing that. Yeah, let's go Cavalier so that I can play cleansing without tapping any of my attackers. Still hit them with everybody. So they have one card in hand. If it's a decent creature, I can keep tapping it with Marshal of Zhalfir and hitting them with the rest of my board. We've got a winning board state here. Let's keep that pressure on. Another Sculpted Perfection. Do they have the land to flip this? No, so they are just dead. And I guess even if they did, we could tap the flipped card and hit for 8 off of our 2/4 power creatures. Incredible stuff from Marshal of Zhalfir, guaranteeing that game locked down, but really good stuff from the deck. Overall, we are now 2-0 heading into Game 3. Here we are for Game 3 with one of our slowest hands so far, but we've got potential for some big value plays off of Wrath, drawing us extra cards late in the game. Got both our colors. We'll keep the hand and hope we can find some non-lands here. Alright, starting things off with Wrath. Looks like we're on the mirror match, blue-white versus blue-white, but they are on the play, so they're at 3 mana now. And they're going to start things off with a Sigiled Sentinel. Ooh, there's an Onofenza for us. Would have loved to see that before we played any creatures, but this is still fine. Play Onofenza and pass. Okay, hit us for 3 with the Sentinel. Drop a Protocol Knight. That is super annoying. Really wanted to Temporal Cleansing whatever they played this turn and draw a card off of Wrath, but I can't do that if it's a Protocol Knight because Wrath is tapped, so I can't tap 2 of my creatures. Yeah, we're definitely behind because they're rolling out on the play here. Backup does feel like the kind of mechanic too where significantly stronger on the play. So not in love with this. Do I bolster before I back up? I think I can make Onofenza a 4/4 here. Let's see. Resolution order, so I want this to resolve first. Cool. Yeah, I can do that. So this resolves, I put a counter on one of my 2 toughness creatures, then I let Bola Slinger resolve and make Onofenza a 4/4. I don't think I should just hold up on blocks here. All the combat tricks in the world could kill Onofenza, and they could just bounce her. Get in that damage. And they're not going to block either way. It doesn't really matter what I tap. Yep, there's the Seal from Existence for Onofenza. So happy to get my damage in while I can. We're down to 11. Now I can Cleansing the Sentinel, draw a card, and then gain 1 off Tranquil Cove. Not great, but it's not like I can get any blocks in here, so I gotta start getting some card advantage. Trying to establish a big enough board state to start blocking in the future. I guess I could play Aeronaut and have a 2/3 and make Wrath a 2/4. Doesn't feel great though. They've got an instant here, so if they have the +1/+1 protection card, this will be a nightmare. I think the idea is here I can try to Temporal Cleansing this turn and draw a card, and then next turn I have the mana to hold up Wrath's +1/+1 ability, threatening bigger blocks, and then just Artistic Refusal anything they try to play. Yep, that's very bad. You're just never going to run out of stuff, good lord. Alright. There's Angelic Intervention. Don't have the mana to do that and play anything else. Which means we're pretty dead. We have 2 blockers against 3 attackers, all of which are at least 3 power. You just play an Aeronaut and get chumping, or play an Angelic Intervention, at least draw a card while I'm chumping. See if it draws anything good. But our stuff is just a bit too slow on the draw. On the defensive, it all plays worse. I can't even kill anything here. Off of Angelic Intervention. Yeah, this is not a winning game. Fairy Mastermind is not bad, because now I can actually play a creature here. But I don't think it's going to be enough blockers anyway. I guess it'll be exactly 3 blockers, but they're all too small to survive. Okay. If I had 1 more mana, Preening Champion would be incredible here. Preening Champion into Raph's ability. Or Preening Champion into Aeronaut. It's still probably like the best draw in our deck there. Kill one of the 4/4s. Bounce off here. I'm left with a single 2/4 after this. Could Artistic Refusal right now? Because I don't have enough creatures to Artistic Refusal if I go for a kill on one of their creatures here, and if I don't go for a kill on one of their creatures, I'm just way too far behind. I think. I guess if I hold Mastermind off, I have enough creatures to Artistic Refusal if they cast something post-combat, and if they don't, I can just draw a card off Mastermind. Really doesn't feel great either way. Okay, well, we would have been super mega dead if I didn't hold up Artistic Refusal. Now I'm just pretty dead instead of super mega dead. Norn's Inquisitor is 2 blockers immediately. Aeronaut, I think, is the worst of all of them? The slowest? I probably just have to roll out Inquisitor and Exarch for 2 together. And just go full chump mode for a turn, and then just start flipping a bunch of 3/3s. Because if Inquisitor stays on board, I'm flipping a bunch of 4/4s instead if I chump block with Exarch, Raph Mastermind. 2, 4, 5, 6 mana up after playing Inquisitor. I could save Inquisitor for next turn and just play it next turn and then just do X equals 3. Die to any removal or any bounce. If I play Exarch and Inquisitor in the same turn, I don't die to removal or bounce, but then I only have 2 potential creatures off this. I'm just gonna play as greedy as possible, because unless things are going super, super well for us from this point on. Like, our backup plan, if I went for Inquisitor this turn, would be I have to go... They play a removal spell on, like, Wrath or something, and then I have to just go chump, 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 and I just have a 2/2 and 2 3/3s to flip, which then just goes chump, chump, chump again. Yeah, I think if they have the removal, even though I'm not dead immediately by playing Inquisitor and Exarch, I'm still functionally dead. Whereas this way, they don't have the removal, I get really, really good value next turn and actually turn things around. Just try to play to our outs here, which is that they just draw a creature and play a creature next turn. Or a land. They just draw a land. That's super fine too. But yeah, if they just play another creature, that's a-okay. As long as it's not a Protocol Knight, not a creature that also, like, taps something. Alright, cool. We look like we're not dead yet. And so we aren't. And there's an aerial boost for instant speed. I can flip 3 4/4s now, which can be completely game-changing. Because that's 2 4/4s to trade with those and 1 to block the Protocol Knight, and then I can start giving them Vigilance every turn. Trying to go for the full recovery from there. The full stabilize into becoming the aggressor. Well, I'm happy to have drawn an aerial boost. I'll tell you that much. They have instant speed interaction, we're still gonna die. And let's see if they do. Oh my god, we drew a Far's Dispersal, so even if they do have instant speed interaction... Oh my god. Now we Dispersal? That was lucky. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4 mana for Slinger. 4 to double flip here. I don't actually love Slinger here. I think I'm going to mill it. Favored more potential instant sorceries. They just hit a land. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9 mana is enough to flip 2 of them and give the whole board Vigilance. We got a chump block and they're down to 6. Xerex Strobe Knight is a flyer, though. They have a flyer. We have to hit something here. Some form of interaction or some way to find lethal somehow. Oh my god, we hit the seal from existence now for the Strobe Knight? we're just drawing gold. We've got the Midas touch in the good way. Off the top. 3 attackers, 5 blockers. We vigilant attack rather than flipping this right now. Chump chump go to 1 it is. White listed YouTuber does it again. He can't keep getting away with it. Alright, that was unfair. Oh my god. We were really far on the back foot, had to hit some really, really great draws off of Raph and play really, really defensively. But in the end, we gave ourselves every opportunity to potentially draw really lucky to get out of it, and by giving ourselves those opportunities, we did find the win because we did get lucky. So definitely one of those games that looked like there was no route to victory, but if you just draw the perfect cards at all times and get a lot of value off of Raph, turns out you can turn almost anything around. We are 3-0 now, undefeated, surprisingly, after that last game. No matter what, getting a 3-3 run at worst. Great stuff from our blue-white Knights deck as we head into Game 4. Here we are on the play for Game 4. We've got Yuta Takahashi on turn 2, this Fairy Mastermind, potentially draws cards. We should play the Plains turn 1, though, in case we hit another for Anafenza to come out first, because then we get to play a 3-2 Flash Flyer for 2, which would be absolutely nuts. I think I'm still playing the Flyer over the Cavalier turn 2 here. Our opponent is on double white. We hit a Tranquil Cove, so I guess it's time for a Swordsworn Cavalier, although I could hold up interaction to protect Fairy Mastermind. Rather just get more damage on the board, especially with the combat trick to back them up. Reigning Champion, well, that is a blocker and a half. This board state's showing how absurd Champion is. Being able to block here and trade and block here and trade off of just 1 card. Best common in the set. Could send an attack holding up an intervention, or I could just play Anafenza. And then when I play more creatures, I'm buffing up my 1 toughness stuff, which is nice. I think I'm cool to clear the skies. If they block, and if they don't, we'll just still play the bolster card. Alright, clear out the skies it is. Cut short, kill the Fairy Mastermind, RIP, sadness on the stack. Cool, 4 mana up now. Unfortunately, I don't have enough white mana to play Anafenza and the Cavalier, which means I still kind of only have 2 mana to play around with this turn. So I can only cast 1 of these spells. Probably best to play Anafenza before I play more creatures. Even though I could get an attack in with the first Cavalier by playing the second one. Let's get all of the +1/+1 counter value that we can. Sigil Sentinel from our opponent. They're going to choose to have 2 2/2s. Interesting. Fair enough. Now I have an Angelic Intervention if I need it, and I can play Cavalier this turn. Bolster on the first one. That's a 4/2 first strike. You can't kill that. Could have sent Anafenza in as well with Intervention and traded Intervention into one of their blockers. That might have been okay, but I kind of like it. Being held up here if they play more removal like Cut Short. Not going to play more removal though. They'll play another 2/2 Vigilance, which is fine. Can use it defensively, protecting their invasion from them. I don't have any knights to play next turn, so I think I'd rather have a 3-3 than a 4-2. So we put the counter on Offensa here. Although if I play any creature, then this becomes a 5-3 instead of a 4-2, but I guess this one can do that as well. Yeah, we'll put the counter on the Kin Tree Spirit. Okay, 5th mana. We can play the Aeronaut then, or I could just Exarch and incubate a boatload. I like getting the Aeronaut out. Get some massive flying damage in here. We'll back up onto this one, bolster on the other. Take 8 damage if they don't trade into this 4-2. Or if they do trade into this 4-2. Take 8 if they don't chump also feels strong. I think I'm going to just push in for 8 if they don't chump here. Because next time I bolster with Anafenza, we can put a counter on this and make it a 5-3. And that way they have to double block to kill either of these Cavaliers. They're just going to scoop it up. They're stuck on 3 mana, probably have some strong late game stuff that they're a little frustrated they can't get to, so they are just over it. We are now 4-0, heading into game number 5, undefeated with this Blue-White Knights deck. Here we are for game 5, and this might be our first mulligan. We don't have anything in our hand until turn 4. Got both the colors, but starting off at turn 4 is egregiously slow for an aggressive deck like this, especially on the draw. So I think I have to mulligan this. Although, I mean, if I have all of these 4s and 5s in my deck, that just means there's more 2-drops in my deck left than anything. We have 13 cards in our deck that are 2 or less mana. Knight of the New Coalition could get us back in. You know what? I probably should mulligan this, but I'm going to keep and just keep the card advantage here of being at 7 cards and drawing on the first turn. We're just hoping to hit one of our like 12 to 13 2-drops by turn 2. At least one of our like 15 plus 3 or less mana cards by turn 3. That should be pretty reasonable. There's only 1 card left in our deck that costs more than 3 mana. Now that we drew Temporal Cleansing, what are the odds? Tremendously low, I'll tell you that. There's a 1 card in our deck that costs more than 3 mana at this point. A single one. Outside of lands, of course. The only 4 or greater cost left in our deck is a Bola Slinger. The next most expensive card is Preening Champion, Zalfirian Lancer, Seal from Existence, Billy Rider at 3. And we will hit none of our 3 mana or less cards, so I guess we're just starting off real slow. Yep, opponent gets to flip the Spellstalker freely and just beat us down for 1,000,000. Drop a Furnace Gremlin now. And now that we have 4 mana to cast the spells in our hand, now we'll draw the 3 mana card. Well, cast any spell, we're just dying to the Spellstalker. Ward 2, we have no way to deal with it. Guess I just play the Knight and hope they have 0 non-creature spells left. Drop a Hanger Scrounger for a counter on Furnace Gremlin, and it looks like no non-creature spells then. Just take 2 damage here. There's a Meeting of Minds, but the Spellstalker is not hitting me right now, so it's okay that it's prowessed. If I want a temporal cleansing the Spellstalker, I have to tap both my creatures for the prowess and then die to everything else on their board. So we go for Preening Champion plus Fairy Mastermind for blocks, I believe. If I Artistic Refusal that, I'm dead on board. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I guess I go to 1 if I Artistic Refusal that. If I don't, though, they're going to have 3 2-1s attacking me. Block, block, block. Block there. Take 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we're just dead if I don't refusal it, too. Dead if I do, and dead if I don't. Alright, let's go to 1 life. Whee! Definitely need the 6th land. Aerial Boost could be cast for free after I declare blocks to stop trample damage. Probably the most expensive creature, the Aeronaut, is what I get rid of. Just gonna die to a burn spell now. 7. I can go 4 mana for Bola Slinger, 2 mana for Fairy Mastermind. And I can Aerial Boost after I declare blocks. Swiftwater Cliffs is the land for turn. Preening Champion is the play. It'll be even harder to have a wide enough board state to survive another turn, but I think we can get there. Shivan Branchburner. Well, let's play a Fairy Mastermind right now to draw a card when Hanger Scrounger triggers if they discard a card. Oh, I guess they can't. Well, we're playing Mastermind either way because Aerial Boost is free. So I'm threatening the double block here. They see it, but they don't care. Yeah, I should have waited on Fairy Mastermind. I forgot that they couldn't draw a card off Scrounger there because they're out of cards in hand. If I waited on Mastermind, they might have, because they wouldn't have known that we had the 2 blockers, like went in with that and Spellstalker or something like that. Well, clearly I Aerial Boost the Knight of New Coalition to not lose any creatures. Block. Okay. 6 blockers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 attackers. If a single thing gets through, I'm dead. So now I finally temporal cleansing the prowess thing. And send in the Vigilant Squad. Oh shoot, Gremlin's untapped. Oh my god, oh my god. That's a way to punt a game. Well, they gave me a card draw, though. I could hit something. Okay, that's not something. Oops. Well, I think overall I played super tight until that last turn. There were many instances we could have died way sooner, so I'm happy to have made it that far off of the pretty bad keep. I don't think the greed... I don't think the keep was exceptionally greedy, but it played out super, super poorly. We just drew every single card in our deck that was more than 3 mana, pretty much. It was not super likely, but it is what it is. Outside of that last turn, the only thing we could really have done differently was mulliganed. Other than that, I'm really happy with sticking around that long in that game, finding free kills on the flyer there and getting some free vigilant damage in. But that last attack was loose. We still really had some outs there. If I remembered about the 2/3 being able to just block our 2/2. I don't know how I didn't see that it was untapped. I guess I probably should have just attacked with nobody there. Because they could have... Because the furnace thing was untapped, they could have double blocked the 3/3 with the furnace thing and the 2/2 flyer, and... Well, then I could kill the 2/2 flyer and choose not to kill the furnace thing. And it would be a 1-for-1 trade. That would have been fine. Yeah, we could have sent the 3/3 in, but I needed to make sure not to kill the furnace card, or they could just flip the incubator and kill me with that. So... That's so annoying. We almost had another just massive comeback game there after a really rocky start. But tossed it in the trash. We gotta balance things out. I've been playing really, really hot today, so... Gotta put in a little bit of loose stuff after all the tight plays earlier. Balance it out. Our opponent is on the play again. Don't love to see that. I'm not going to cleansing this Sentinel here. Save it for something better. That is just the same mirror match we had last time, where it just hurts a lot to be on the draw. But we saw what happened last time. We got a huge recovery off that round with Wrath in the late game. See if we can't repeat that. Nope. The most snowballing mechanic ever printed strikes again. Go for the insta-flip on the battle. Go from ahead on board to monstrously ahead on board, unless I chump block. And if I chump block, they also go from ahead on board to monstrously ahead on board. It's my least favorite part of this format. I don't like battles. I don't like instants with Convoke, and I don't like battles. I feel like both of them have pretty frustrating play patterns generally. Well, I can play a 2/3 flyer, so the saboteurs can't really get in. Unless they interact with my aeronaut at least. Kind of evened out the board states pretty well with that aeronaut. Card actually hit pretty hard here. Turn 5 for us. Now the board state does crumble to 1 removal spell, like so, because now the saboteurs draws them an extra card every single turn. Gets us super far behind. Oh my god, they have another Protocol Knight too? That is absolutely filthy. I don't think we saw any Protocol Knights in our draft pod. We're like the one blue-white Knights deck that didn't get to play any Protocol Knights. It's very sad. If I take the trade here, I don't get to throw a double block at one of these later. But if I don't take the trade, I'm taking 8 and they're drawing a card. Go to 9. Next turn, double block there, take 6 bouncing saboteurs with cleansing. Go to 3. It's painful, but I think I hold. Well, holding worked really well if they don't have interaction for Marshal of Zhalfir. Because a 4/4 against a 3/4 is really nice. I'm going to hold the man up for Mastermind by convoking Marshal since I already don't want to block with it, and then the Aeronaut because it can't do anything else. It's going to be pretty annoying if they recast that, but it's worse for me if they just keep drawing 2 a turn. Like, I guess I can also draw cards by playing Mastermind, but Mastermind's not going to block it well, and we're at 9 life. I can't let them keep hitting me with the flyer. Speaking of flyers, there's a 2/3 flyer now they can hit me with, and an Order of the Mirror. Can also play more flyers from the top of their library, as well as any cards with flash. If I play Onofenza into Billy Rider, then Mastermind becomes a 3/2 flyer, which is big enough to trade into Errant. So they gotta tap down Fairy Mastermind this turn. Seems reasonable. I don't get to hold up the mana to tap anything with Marshal anymore, but I think it's worth it. Slap everything onto the board here. Probably should have sent in with the Cavalier. At that point, wide enough board state for that. Maybe. I'm not confident on that attack. Probably, though. Well, no, because they could just double block and kill it. They lose a single 3/4, kill with their other card, so it wouldn't be that great. So Mastermind getting tapped down. Yes, it is. Are Errant and Giada attacking us or the invasion of Kamigawa? Ooh, flip the Order of the Alabaster Host, I see. I'll trade my 4/2 into a 3/3, because it's basically a 3/1 anyway. And then let it take 2, it's still going to be around for a turn, and then I can start tapping their flyer every turn with Marshal. Another Cavalier, I can bolster onto that. Seems fine. Oh, I have all the bolster options still. Probably the Mastermind then, so it's big enough to start chipping in for damage, because I'll keep tapping down that and then start attacking them with our flyer instead. Alright, start using our tapper. Well, that's a good draw. I guess I could have tapped in their upkeep before the draw step. Four 3 flyer still good enough to block Saboteurs, but not Errant, so we'll just keep tapping Errant now. Another flyer. Stop drawing flyers! We've got mana sinks, we gotta keep running out all our lands. Well, now we're really dead. Their whole board +1/+1 in Vigilance. They can't do it right now, at least. Certainly flip the Seraph. Tap the Seraph. Send an Errant and Giada. I probably should have drawn a card before combat in case I hit a combat trick on the draw too. Wow, Raph versus Raph? Oh. Who would win? Raph or Raph? They can only afford to Raph one time. I guess I only have 8 mana, so I can only afford to do it one time also. Is there any way to kill them this turn? I can tap all their flyers, but that's not going to kill them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blockers. They block the best creatures. That doesn't include Mastermind. So take 5 guaranteed, then they block 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not lethal. How do I not die on the crackback? I probably just play Wrath and hold up my own +1/+1. I can't afford to... Oh, I can play Wrath, tap a thing, but I can't afford to play Wrath, tap a thing, and buff my board with Wrath. They're just an all-around bad time. So I'm going to have to tap Seraph of New Phyrexia. The other two get to attack in big enough to kill Mastermind. Then maybe Bola Slinger Wrath can find lethal or something on the crackback. Yeah, I guess I'm going to have to Marshal over Wrath this turn, so I should just play Bola Slinger now. Uh-oh, they hit another white source. They're one white source away from double Wrath. Got 9 creatures. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not enough more for Wrath to end up killing them. Pass. Hold up Wrath on blocks. One mana off from double pump of Wrath. Guess that means we don't have good attacks here if they're holding up their Wrath right now, so we pass. Holding up our Wrath on blocks as well as Fairy Mastermind. Well, I guess I have to tap the Seraph of New Capenna down again. Well, they've got double Wrath, that's probably it. Needed them to not hit exactly white source. Oh my god, they have Dispersal too? They probably could have just already killed us. Unless that was the draw this turn. Yeah, we're already just dead. To 1 Wrath trigger. That's 4, 5, 6, 7. That must have been the top deck was Dispersal to kill us. I guess I gotta draw into an out here. So let's draw 2. Don't know if Artistic Refusal is good enough. Angelic Intervention almost definitely is. Pro blue here. But yeah, Refusal I'd have to tap some creatures and stuff. Okay, Intervention pro blue. Oh my god, draw an aerial boost. Hold up. They get too excited here. Maybe we find a crackback for lethal in the sky by giving Billy Rider flying. Feels unlikely though. They should have at least one chump blocker, almost guaranteed. Okay, they're moving to combat. These are both convoked, so we'll get the tap done here. On the only creature that Mastermind can't just straight up kill on the block, which is Seraph. Mastermind has protection from Saboteurs and Arrington Giada. They only have 5 blockers up now. Oh, wow. Artistic refusal to counter whatever nonsense they try to do here could really get us there. Never mind. Even if it's just the flyers. Crackback with aerial boost for the lethal. Artistic refusal, whatever they use to try to turn this into lethal damage. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plus 5. 13, that's exact lethal. 5 plus 8, right? I guess this is permanently a 6/5, right? It's 4 plus 1 plus 1 counter, so 6 plus 8. 14. We should. Lethal in the crackback. They only have the mana to Wrath once to deal 4 to me here. Ooh, hello, Sunfall. Goodbye, Sunfall. I'll draw another card too, for fun. That feels so good. I'm gonna double aerial boost them. I don't even care. I'm gonna get as rude as possible here. Try to Sunfall me. Get that out of here. If they have interaction to kill Billy Rider, I'm gonna be so sad. Um, 6 plus 5, 6, 7. 6 plus 7 is also lethal, so now they need to be able to kill both of these to survive. All right. That was nice. I gotta say, casting an artistic refusal on Sunfall, it's one of the great joys of life. That's gotta be one of the most fun things you can do in the format. One of the most feel-good things. Probably not a feel-good for our opponent. I'm almost certain that did not feel great for them, but we'll take it. We are 5-1 now. Really, really great record. Our only loss was a pretty big punt. I just completely forgot they had a blocker up. We were really far behind that game, so it's not like I would have immediately won the next turn, but we could add more outs there. So only loss, partially, potentially due to human error today. This deck has been phenomenal. 5-1 heading into round number 7. So maybe if we played perfectly, the deck's good enough, we could have won that single loss game as well. All right, here we are on the play for round whatever it is. 5-1, so this must be round 7. Dang. Another white source would have been beautiful, but that's okay. We can still roll out with our Norn's Inquisitor and start beating down. And holding up an Afra's Dispersal, which is cool. Marshal of Zalfir is their play. Rather attack in for 3 right now or play on Offensa. Playing on Offensa leaves me open to Bola Slinger, but the sooner I flip this Incubator the better, so if anything happens to Inquisitor, it's still going to be larger. Although playing against blue, they probably have a lot of bounce spells to manipulate our token. It's actually played a little slow here. Drop our Kin Tree Spirit, holding up a Dispersal. and then go for like a Bola Slinger next turn, triggering the bolster onto Inquisitor and getting our +1/+1 counter value. Zalfiran Lancer, that is large and in charge. Play Bola Slinger this turn, or tap land, flip a 3/3, bounce an attacker. Bola Slinger would let me tap Lancer for the turn on the attack with both creatures. They could trade Inquisitor into Marshal of Zalfir, that's fine. They're going to crack back for a lot. But I kind of want to try to get into a position where they're attacking back so I can dispersal them pretty hard later. I guess Lancer's almost definitely attacking us next turn. We can dispersal the Lancer. Yeah, this seems fine. We'll just flip our Incubator and Afar's dispersal. I don't love the idea of just initiating a race there, because we would only hit for like 5 damage, and then they were going to hit back for like 8 off of playing this Preening Champion, and we wouldn't have dispersal up that turn. I guess 7, not 8. Okay, Lancer's coming in, dispersal that and set up our draws. Already got 5 mana, so Progenitor Exarch is very real. Incubate 3 twice. Really good with Inquisitor on board too. That is huge. Yeah. We're definitely doing that. Start making a bunch of Phyrexians. It's breakfast time. Crack some eggs. Put some omelets on the skillet. Stasis Field the Inquisitor. Alright, still going to be a solid blocker. And these are still 3/3s, which is good enough on the current board state to beat in. Not if they recast the Lancer, that'll be a 4/4. That'll be the largest creature on board, hard to get through. Play an Order of the Mirror and hit me in the sky for 3. Can flip one of these naturally. Flip one of them with Exarch and play Bola Slinger this turn. Just beat in. Back up on Onofenza and bolster on the Slinger. They could double block and kill Onofenza, but then they take 9 and lose their Marshal. So they're just going to chump 1, take all that damage, go down to 8. We're at 18 life. We're pretty handedly winning the race here. Progenitor Exarch, for just a ton of stats on this board, has been great. Onofenza as well. That bolster was nice. Our 2 little bolsters. Marshal of Zalfir number 2, doubling them up. That is definitely making their blockers quite a bit larger. Now they Stasis Field Onofenza. Alright, Bola Slinger can tap Preening Champion and all they have are trades. I can even send the Slinger into the sky so it can attack again next turn. That feels pretty phenomenal. And they're going to scoop it up there. We get to tap down the champion, guarantee 4 damage in the sky this turn, and then force it so their only blocks are trading Marshals of Zalfir into 3/3s. Right, because if I hit them for 4 here, they have to block at least 2 Phyrexians to not die. So they have to trade Order of the Mirror into a 3/3 and trade off at least one of the marshals. And if they only trade one marshal there, then they go to 1 life. So likely we kind of force them to trade both marshals out. Yep, pretty sick stuff there. That is going to be, what, 6-1 now? I don't think we've won 6 games yet, have we? Short-term memory, where are you? Where am I? What am I doing? We're 6-1, good grief. Excellent, excellent quick draft here. Really nice blue-white Knights deck. Again, our only loss was a game that could have gone on longer if it weren't for human error, so who knows, that might have also been able to be a win, just based on the deck quality in general. The deck has played exceptionally, 6-1 heading into the final boss with 2 rounds in the chamber. Alright, here we are for game number 8, which could be the final boss. We've got a definite keep here. Really good curve, Wrath into Lancer into Knight of the New Coalition. That'll give us a lot of creatures on board to give Vigilance to, or to draw cards off of casting spells with. Lancer into Knight of the New Coalition is always going to hit for a ton if they don't have the removal for the Lancer. But hopefully if they have removal, they just kill Wrath. Since Wrath is the slower card, we can try to push our aggressive lead since we are on the play. Just kind of naturally the aggressor at the start. So hopefully, fingers crossed, no Volcanic Spite. No Volcanic Spite, they just play a SRAM here. They're stuck on 2 lands, and Knight of the New Coalition is about to do some really nasty stuff while our opponent's stuck on mana. I could attack with Wrath, and then if they block, I can Aerial Boost, but I can't Aerial Boost plus draw the card, and I'm a greedy Gus. We're going to wait till I can Aerial Boost and draw a card off of casting it on the Convoke. And since they're a red deck, they might even try to spite one of our blockers, throw some lava at one, and then we can save it from that and draw a card off of Aerial Boosting off the Convoke plus drawing off of Wrath. So SRAM does draw them a card here, casting the Mirren Bane Splitter. They do hit their land drop now. Oh, I just realized, I think I just see what happened. They got greedy. They had 1 land in hand to Invasion of Mercadia last turn, and they discarded that land hoping to draw another one, and didn't. So they had the 3 lands in hand. They didn't get unlucky with their land draws. They just got a little greedy and were hoping to hit another one off Invasion discard. Now that I see that, I don't feel as bad about our opponent missing land drops here. It was definitely partially self-imposed. Either way, here is a monstrous board state thanks to Marshal of Zhalfir, and probably basically the end of this game. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Can't quite lethal them, but I can save Knight of the New Coalition and draw a card, so sure. If they don't have Sunfall, the game's pretty much over. And even if they do have Sunfall, they did miss a land drop, so they don't have the 5 mana for it. Maybe if they discarded a non-land card instead of the mountain, they'd be at 5 mana now if they had a Sunfall, but looks like they're just like a red-white equipment aggro deck, so I doubt they would. We've got well over lethal on board against a Rayav. If they just equip one of these, they're dead, and they're going to scoop it up. That's going to be 7-1 from this blue-white Knights deck. An excellent quick draft overall, a really nice deck. Definitely nice to finally get to play a Wrath deck, and we certainly did some stuff with Wrath. We drew a lot of cards off of those combat tricks. Wrath completely saved us in game 3 where we were really far behind from the start, and then we just got some really lucky Wrath hits. There was that one time where they attacked in with the big flyer. It was going to lethal us in 1 hit, so I went Aerial Boost, draw the card off of Wrath. Opponent responds by attempting to protect their creature from getting blocked. And then I top-decked off of Wrath's trigger the Afara Dispersal to still stop the attack. So Wrath had the Midas touch today. Incredible stuff from Wrath in that game. As well as in that final game, we drew an extra card off the Wrath, which was quite nice as well. And here and there, we were drawing some extra cards. Never did the Vigilant ability, though, I think. Never ended up doing that. But yeah, Raph played super, super well. I think pretty much everything in the deck got its time to shine, which was nice. We temporal cleansing some threats. We definitely dispersaled some threats. That was phenomenal. Seal from Existence got used. Both the combat tricks got used super well. Raph got used frequently. Marshal of Zalfir frequently. Fairy Mastermind frequently. Anafenza frequently. Literally every card in the deck got played at least once and really did its job. Aeronaut for that big flying swing in our 6th victory, I guess game 7, was phenomenal in the end, and it did some work like that in other games. Artistic Refusal to counter Sunfall. Really nice stuff. I love it when a deck just functions to its peak, and not only that, but you get to see all of the different cards show up and put in some work, so you get to see everything and play with everything in your deck. That's always quite a bit of fun. So really fun draft, really solid record here. We go 7-1, get all of the prizes back out of this, 950 gems and 2 packs richer. But that's going to end today's draft. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons very much for supporting this channel, and thank you for watching. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to hang out with me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.